homeless and hopeless. She wept with her son in her arms until a stranger approached. Little did she know that this encounter would change her destiny forever. Prepare to experience a thrilling story. Leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from, and share this special moment. The afternoon sun beat down intensely on the wooden park benches, but Paige didn't feel the heat. She felt nothing but the weight of Liam, asleep against her chest, and the emptiness that now occupied the entire space where certainty once resided. Her silent tears fell, wetting the little brown hairs of the boy, who snored softly, oblivious to the disaster that was their life now. 8 months. It had only been 8 months since 2 police officers knocked on the door at 3 in the morning. 8 months since the word accident destroyed everything. 8 months since the smell of morning coffee and the sound of the motorcycle in the garage turned into memories that cut like glass. She squeezed Liam tighter, feeling his heartbeat against her ribs. It was the only real thing, the only reason she was still breathing. "Mommy," Liam murmured in his sleep, seeking a more comfortable position. Paige kissed his forehead, closing her eyes tightly. "I don't know what to do. God, I don't know what to do anymore." The house had gone first. After 3 months of being unable to pay the mortgage installments, the papers arrived. Eviction. A word so small, so bureaucratic, yet carrying the weight of an entire life collapsing. The boxes, the furniture sold for nothing, the key handed over. It all happened so fast she barely had time to understand. Jenna had offered her sofa for 2 weeks, but Paige knew she couldn't impose. Her friend had her own problems, her own bills to pay. Mrs. Elena, the neighbor who was practically a grandmother to Liam, didn't have space either. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with her teenage granddaughter. And the job she had quit to care for Liam when he was born, and that she now desperately needed, simply wasn't materializing. Ignored resumes, closed doors, interviews with no callbacks. All that was left was the park, this wooden bench that was now all they had. The bag at her feet held 3 diapers, an empty bottle, $43, and her cell phone, which was nearly dead. She had nowhere else to go, nowhere left to run. "You're so strong, Paige," Ryan used to say, running a hand over her face after a hard day. "You can handle anything." But he was wrong. There were things she couldn't handle, like living without him, like looking at Liam and seeing the same brown eyes, the same crooked smile, like waking up every day and remembering he would never return from his delivery route. A sob escaped louder this time, and she bit her lip hard to suppress it. She couldn't fall apart. Not here. Not in front of Liam, even though he was asleep. But the tears wouldn't obey. They streamed down, hot and insistent, carrying all the despair she was trying to push back down her throat. Across the park, Ethan stopped. He had left the office early, needing air after a meeting that ran hours longer than it should have. Mark had been impossible lately, always questioning every decision, always pushing projects that only served his own interests. A headache was throbbing in his temples, and all Ethan wanted was to wander aimlessly for a while, to let his mind clear. But then he saw her, a young woman, sitting alone on a sunny bench with a child in her arms. And she was crying. It wasn't a discreet cry. It was the kind of crying that came from a deep place, the kind a person tries to hide but can't. Her shoulders trembled. Her head was bowed, her face hidden in the child's hair. Ethan should keep moving. It wasn't his business. He didn't know this woman, knew nothing about her or what made her cry like that. But his feet wouldn't move. Something in the way she held the boy so tightly, as if he were the only thing stopping her from falling into the abyss. Something there touched a place inside Ethan that he had locked away a long time ago. He stood there, 30 feet away, watching, feeling invasive, yet unable to leave. "Don't get involved," the rational voice in his head said. "You can't save everyone." But this woman wasn't asking to be saved. She didn't even know he was there. And perhaps that was exactly why Ethan couldn't walk away. Because she wasn't performing. She wasn't begging for help. She was just breaking, in silence, alone. And that was worse than any cry for help. Ethan took a deep breath, his hand clenching and unclenching inside his dress pants pocket. 3 years, he thought. It's been 3 years since you've let anyone in. 3 years since you've fled anything that smells of emotional involvement. But that woman in the park, with the sleeping child and the tears wetting her red shirt, she wasn't asking for involvement. She was merely existing at the limit of what a person can endure. And Ethan knew exactly what that place felt like. He began to walk. His steps were slow, cautious, as if approaching a wounded animal. With every footstep, he expected her to lift her head and see him. He expected the intrusion to make him retreat, but she remained head down, lost in her own despair. When he was 10 feet away, Ethan stopped again. He swallowed hard. "What are you going to say? What can you say that won't sound invasive or condescending?" Nothing. There was no right thing to say. But remaining silent and observing was also wrong. "Excuse me," he said, his voice coming out quieter than intended. Paige lifted her head with a sudden movement, her eyes wide and red. For a second, there was only confusion on her face. Then came fear. She squeezed Liam against her chest, her body stiffening. "I'm sorry." Ethan raised his hands, taking a step back. "I didn't mean to scare you. He paused, searching for words. "Are you all right?" It was a stupid question. Obviously, she wasn't all right. Paige wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her expression shut down like a slamming door. "I am," she replied, her voice hoarse. "Thank you." It was a clear dismissal. "Go away. Leave me alone." Ethan should have accepted it. He should have turned around and gone his way. But his eyes fell on the bag at her feet. Too small. On the boy's clothes. Clean, but worn. On the way she looked at him, with a mixture of shame and defiance. She has nowhere to go. The certainty arrived, sudden and solid. She is sitting in this park because she has no other place. "Your son?" Ethan said, pointing with his chin at the sleeping boy. "How old is he?" Paige hesitated, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. 2. "Why?" "Because I have an 8-year-old niece," Ethan replied, not knowing why he was saying it. "And I remember when she was that age. She would sleep anywhere. The world could be ending. If she was in her mother's lap, she'd sleep like a rock." Something shifted in Paige's face. The suspicion was still there, but a crack appeared. A flicker of recognition. As if the simple, human mention of a sleeping child had created a tiny bridge between two strangers. "Yeah," she said softly, looking at her son. "Liam is like that too. It doesn't matter where we are. He just needs to be held. It doesn't matter where we are." The words hung in the air like a confession. Ethan took another step closer, and when she didn't recoil, he sat down on the bench beside her. Not too close. Leaving space, leaving an escape in case she wanted to leave. They sat in silence for a while. The sounds of the city continued around them. People passing, dogs barking in the distance, the hot dog vendor shouting across the park. But there, on that bench, it was as if a bubble existed. A space where two people who didn't know each other shared the invisible burden of being lost. "I'm not in the habit of approaching strangers in parks," Ethan finally said, with a tired half-smile. "In case you're wondering if I'm some kind of lunatic," Paige let out a sigh that was almost a laugh. "I can't tell the difference between who's crazy and who isn't anymore. Fair enough. More silence. But this time, it was less uncomfortable. You don't have to tell me anything, Ethan continued, looking straight ahead at the park's somewhat neglected garden. But if you need anything, food, a place to rest today, I can help. No strings attached, no expectations. Paige turned her face to him, and Ethan felt the weight of that look. She was measuring him, trying to decide if this was real or another trap. Why? She asked, and there was pain in that word. You don't know me. Why do you care? Ethan took a deep breath. He could lie. He could give a generic answer. Something about empathy or charity. But something in this woman's silent desperation deserved honesty. Because I've been in a similar place, he said, his voice softer. Not exactly the same, but similar enough to know that sometimes we just need someone to show up. Even if it's a stranger. Even if it's just for a day. Tears returned to Paige's eyes, but this time she didn't look away. I don't accept charity, she said, but her voice was trembling. It's not charity, Ethan replied. It's dinner, a place to sleep tonight. Tomorrow, you decide what to do. But today, let me help. Please. Liam stirred in her lap, murmuring something incomprehensible before falling back asleep. Paige looked at her son, then at the sky, which was beginning to turn orange. The sun would set soon, and then the night would come. The night in the park. She closed her eyes. Just for today, she whispered. Ethan nodded, rising slowly. Just for today. The hotel wasn't luxurious, but it was clean. Ethan had insisted on this when he pulled the car up front, as if he needed to justify the choice. It's nothing ostentatious, he said, turning off the engine. But it's close by, and they have a crib. I called while you were putting Liam in the car seat. Paige looked out the window. The simple facade. The illuminated sign with half the bulbs burned out. It wasn't the type of place she imagined a man in a suit would frequent, and perhaps that was exactly why she began to believe this wasn't some elaborate trap. You don't have to pay, she said. But the voice lacked conviction. Ethan was already opening the door. I know I don't have to, but I want to. He grabbed her small bag from the back seat, while Paige took Liam out of the car seat. The boy grumbled, rubbing his eyes, but didn't fully wake up. He just nestled his head on his mother's shoulder and went back to sleep. The reception smelled of stale coffee and cleaning products. The woman behind the counter looked at them curiously when they entered, but asked no questions. Ethan paid in cash, asked for the quietest room they had, and received the key without ceremony. "Third floor," the receptionist said, pointing to the elevator. "Breakfast is from 6 to 10. In the elevator, Paige avoided her own reflection in the mirror. She knew how she looked. Swollen eyes, disheveled hair, wrinkled clothes. She must look exactly what she was, someone who had given up. But when she glanced at the man beside her, she saw no judgment. Ethan was just watching the numbers light up on the panel, his hands in his pockets, his jaw tight. He looked tired, not physically. It was a deeper fatigue, the kind that comes from within. The room was small but functional. A double bed, an old TV, a bathroom with a frosted glass shower, and, as promised, a crib set up in the corner. Paige gently placed Liam in the crib, covering him with the thin blanket the hotel provided. He sighed in his sleep, his mouth slightly open, his long lashes casting shadows on his cheeks. He doesn't know anything, she thought, running a hand through her son's hair. He doesn't know we don't have a home. He doesn't know. I don't know how we're going to eat tomorrow. He only knew that Mommy was here. And that broke something inside her again. I'm going to order food, Ethan said behind her. Paige had almost forgotten he was still there. What do you like? She turned around, quickly wiping away a tear that insisted on falling. Anything. Thank you. Ethan took his phone out of his pocket but paused before using it. "Paige," he said. It was the first time he had used her name. She had mentioned it in the car when Liam woke up and asked where they were. "You don't have to thank me. It's all right." But it wasn't all right, and they both knew it. He ordered pizza. Something simple, without asking for flavors or preferences, as if he knew any choice would be arbitrary at that moment. Then he left his card on the nightstand next to the TV. "My number is there," he said, already at the door. "If you need anything, a call, a message, anything. No judgment." Paige picked up the card. It was white with black and gold letters. Ethan Mendez, CEO, Apex Holdings. CEO. Her stomach sank a little. Of course he was successful. Of course all of this, the hotel, the food, was just a drop in the ocean for him. But when she looked up, Ethan was still there, waiting. And there was no superiority in his gaze. There was only something she couldn't name, a mirrored sadness perhaps. "Thank you," she said again, because she didn't know what else to say. Ethan nodded and left, closing the door with a soft click, and Paige was left alone for the first time in hours. There was no Liam pulling her attention. There was no park noise, just the silence of the hotel room, and the weight of everything that had happened. She sat on the bed, the card still in her hand. "What are you doing?" Ryan's voice echoed in her memory. "Accepting help from a stranger. That's not you, Paige." But it was. Or at least it had become her. Because the Paige from 8 months ago, the one who had a husband and a house and plans, would never need to accept charity from a stranger in a park. But this Paige, this one had no choice. She looked at the crib where Liam slept, his chest rising and falling at a constant, tranquilizing rhythm. "For you," she thought. "I'll accept anything for you." The phone vibrated in her pocket. Paige answered without looking who it was. "Hello? Paige?" Mrs. Elena's voice burst through the line, full of worry. "Girl, where are you? I came by yesterday trying to find you. Jenna called too, we're worried." Paige closed her eyes, guilt tightening her chest. "I'm fine, Mrs. Elena. I just needed some time. Some time." The older woman didn't buy the lie. "Where are you? Are you safe? Is Liam all right?" "Everything is fine, I promise. We are in a hotel. I managed to find a place to stay tonight." There was a pause on the other side. Mrs. Elena was smart. She knew how to read between the lines. "A hotel," she repeated slowly. "Did you get money?" "Something like that." Another pause. "Paige, you know you can come here? We'll squeeze in me did says, but..." "I know, Mrs. Elena, I know. But I don't want to bother you. You already do so much for me." "Bother is leaving you and that boy on the street, girl. Do you think I'll sleep soundly knowing that?" "Please," Paige interrupted, her voice breaking. "Just for today. Tomorrow I'll figure it out. I promise." Mrs. Elena sighed on the other side, and in that sigh was years of experience, of having seen too many people sink because of pride. "Okay, but call me tomorrow, hear me? Don't leave me worried." "I will call." After hanging up, Paige stared at the phone. 2 battery bars. She needed to find a way to charge it. The pizza arrived 20 minutes later. Paige ate slowly, alone, while Liam slept. The taste was good, but she barely registered it. She was functioning on autopilot. Chew, swallow, repeat. After a shower, she lay down next to Liam in the crib, even though she barely fit. She just needed to feel his warmth. The smell of baby mixed with cheap shampoo. She needed to remember that she wasn't completely alone. "Ryan," she thought, looking at the dark ceiling. "I don't know if I can take it. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this." But there was no answer. Never was. Just silence, and the memory of a voice that would never speak to her again. On the bedside table, Ethan's card shone under the faint light entering through the window. Paige picked up the card. The gold letters glistened in the room's low light. Ethan Mendez, CEO. A phone number. An email. She should throw it away. Tomorrow, she would leave here, find a way to move on, and never see that man again. But her fingers wouldn't let go of the card. Instead, she slipped it under the pillow, just in case something went wrong, just for today. But when she closed her eyes, the last thing she saw was the expression on Ethan's face when he said, "I've been in a similar place," and she wondered what kind of pain a man like that carried to recognize hers so quickly. 5 days passed like shadows. Paige had left the hotel the next morning, thanked them for the included coffee, and carried everything she could in her pockets and small bag. Ethan's card was still there, folded and hidden at the bottom. But she hadn't called. She wasn't going to call. That had been a moment of weakness, an anomaly. Now she needed to fix things herself, but fix them how? Exactly. When every door closed before she even finished speaking. When every "we'll evaluate your resume" was just a polite way of saying no. When the $43 had turned into 28, then 15, then 8. The park had become her refuge for lack of a better option. During the day, it was safe. It had traffic, families, children. Mrs. Elena came some afternoons bringing meals she called leftovers, but which Paige knew the woman made specially. Jenna showed up when she could, with diapers left over from a hospital donation. Everyone lied gently, and Paige accepted because she had no choice. But at night it was different. She slept at the nearest bus stop, with Liam pressed against her chest and her body in constant alert. Every noise was a threat, every shadow a danger. This can't continue, she thought every morning. Something has to change. It was Tuesday, nearly 3 in the afternoon, when she saw the popcorn cart. The man was old, his brown skin tanned by the sun, a faded cap covering white hair. He pushed the cart with difficulty over the park's uneven stones. The rusty wheels made a rhythmic noise that was almost musical. Liam lifted his head from Paige's lap, his eyes wide. "Popcorn," he said, pointing with his chubby finger. Paige felt her stomach clench. She had $5 in her pocket. $5 that needed to last until when? Until something changed. Until a miracle happened. "Not today, honey," she said softly, diverting his attention to the empty swing set on the other side. "Look, want to go on the swings?" But Liam was not easily distracted when he wanted something. "Popcorn," he repeated with more insistence. "Mommy, popcorn." The cart was closer now, the sweet, buttery smell filling the air. Paige felt her own mouth water. When was the last time she had eaten popcorn? Before everything fell apart. On a random night watching a movie with Ryan, Liam asleep between them on the couch. A lifetime ago. "Good afternoon," the old man said, stopping the cart near the bench. He had a rough, kind voice. "Can I rest here for a bit? These wheels are killing me." Paige nodded, pulling Liam closer to make space. The man sat down with a deep sigh, taking off his cap and fanning his face. "Terrible heat," he commented, looking up at the sky. "But at least it's not raining. Rain is bad for business." Liam kept staring at the popcorn cart with that intensity only a child can muster. The old man noticed and smiled. "Your son likes popcorn?" "He does," Paige replied, her voice automatic. "But we're not buying today, sorry." The man waved his hand, as if it didn't matter. "No need to apologize, miss. Business is tough for everyone." He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface. "You come here a lot, to this park?" It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Paige felt her cheeks heat up. "Yeah, near some things I need to do." A lie, but a necessary lie. The old man nodded. but his look told her he knew. "I've been selling popcorn here for 15 years, he said, putting his cap back on. "I've seen a lot of people pass through. Happy people, sad people, lost people." He paused. "Are you in the third group?" Paige didn't answer. What could she say? That yes, she was lost. That she didn't know where to go or what to do. That she woke up every day praying for something to change. But nothing ever changed. "No need to speak," the old man continued. "I just think you need to know that things have a way of working themselves out. Not always the way we expect, but they work out." Liam stirred in her lap, stretching his little hand toward the cart. "Popcorn, Mommy. Please." Paige closed her eyes. "Don't cry. Not now. Not in front of him. You know what?" The old man stood up, pulling out a ready-made paper bag. "This is the last one of the day, and I hate going home with leftovers. Bad for business." He held out the bag to Liam. "Do me a favor, little one, and take this one for me." Liam looked at his mother, waiting for permission. Paige wanted to refuse. She wanted to say she didn't need charity. But when she looked into the boy's eyes, full of hope and innocence, the words died in her throat. "You can take it," she whispered, "and say thank you." "Thank you," Liam shouted, grabbing the bag with both hands as if it were treasure. The old man laughed, a rough, sincere laugh. "You're welcome, champ." He looked at Paige again, and this time, there was something different in his gaze. Something that seemed like knowledge, as if he knew something she didn't. "Life is like that, miss. We think we're alone, but we never are. Someone always shows up, in the right place, at the right time." He picked up his cart, waved, and walked away. The wheels making that rhythmic noise against the stones. Paige watched him go, the words echoing in her head. Someone always shows up. Liam was eating the popcorn with fervor. His sticky little fingers, his face illuminated with simple happiness. And Paige wondered if she still remembered what that happiness felt like. If one day she would be able to feel it again. "Mommy," Liam said, offering her a piece of popcorn. "Want some?" She took it, put it in her mouth. The taste was sweet, warm, perfect. And for a second, just 1 second, she let that be enough. It was almost 5 in the afternoon when she saw him. Ethan was on the other side of the park, standing near a tree, looking at his phone. He was wearing more casual clothes this time, a white button-down shirt and dark slacks. His hair was a bit messy, as if he had run his hand through it several times. Paige's heart gave a strange jump. Did he come looking for me? No, it couldn't be. It must be a coincidence. But then Ethan lifted his eyes, and theirs met. And judging by the look on his face, it definitely wasn't a coincidence. He hesitated for a second, clearly unsure whether he should approach or not. But then Liam shouted, "Uncle! The car, Uncle! Uncle!" When had Liam started calling him that? In the car, when Ethan had explained about the car seat. "He's like a borrowed uncle," he had said, trying to make the boy comfortable, which apparently, in 2-year-old Liam's head, had become the truth. Ethan smiled and started walking toward them. Paige felt the urge to stand up and run again, to continue editing. But her feet were glued to the ground, and Liam was already waving excitedly, bouncing on the bench. "Hi," Ethan said when he got close, his hands in his pockets. There was an uncomfortable quality to his posture, as if he also didn't know exactly what to do. "I wasn't stalking you, I swear." Paige couldn't help a short, humorless laugh. "That would be super reassuring if you'd said that without me asking." He grimaced, running a hand through his hair. "Terrible start. Let me try again." He took a deep breath. "I come to this park sometimes, after work, to clear my head. And today I came, and then I saw you, and—" He stopped, looking genuinely lost. "I don't know. It felt wrong to pretend I hadn't seen you." Liam was eating the last pieces of popcorn, swinging his little legs and humming a song only he knew, completely oblivious to the tension. "I used the hotel," Paige said, because she needed to say something. "Thank you. It was very helpful. I still have the card." The question came so directly that Paige blinked, caught by surprise. Yes. Did you use the number?" "No." Ethan nodded slowly, as if calculating something. "Did you need to?" Every day, Paige wanted to scream. Every single damn day, I looked at that card and thought about calling. But I can't. I can't be that kind of person who latches onto a stranger just because he was kind once. "I'm fine," she said. And they both knew it was a lie. Ethan looked at her. Really looked. His eyes traveled over her tired face, the clothes that were the same as 5 days ago, the small bag that couldn't possibly carry an entire life. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. "We ate popcorn," Liam answered, before Paige could speak, holding up the empty bag as proof. Ethan didn't take his eyes off her. "Popcorn isn't a meal. It was what we had," Paige retorted, and it came out sharper than she intended. She sighed, rubbing her face with her hands. "I apologize. I'm sorry." "You don't need to apologize." Ethan looked around, then back at her. "Look, I know you don't want to accept help. I understand, but..." He stopped, choosing his words. "Let me make you a proposal. No commitment. No obligation." Paige felt her stomach tighten. Here it comes. Now he's going to ask for something in return. They always do. But Ethan continued. "I need someone to organize some files in the office. It's temporary work. A few weeks. Reasonable pay. Nothing extraordinary. And the company uses a partner daycare center. I can get Liam a spot while you work." Paige stared at him, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Waiting for the but. There was always a but. "That's it?" she asked suspiciously. "That's it. Why?" The words came out harsher than she wanted. "You don't know me. I could be anyone. Why are you doing this?" Ethan was silent for a moment. His jaw was tense. When he spoke, his voice was low. "I'm doing it because 3 years ago, I was in a very dark place, and no one offered me help. No one came near. Everyone was afraid of getting involved." He looked straight into her eyes. "I almost didn't survive that. So, if I can be for someone else what no one was for me, I will be. Even if you tell me to go to hell. Even if you think I'm crazy or that I have ulterior motives." The raw sincerity in his words cut through all of Paige's defenses. She saw the truth there, naked and exposed. He wasn't doing this out of pity. He was doing it because he understood. Because he had been there. You are someone going through a hard time, and you need an opportunity. That's all. If you accept the job, you'll work. You'll have to do the job right. No favors. There are expectations. There are hours. There is responsibility. The only difference is that I'm offering the chance. The rest is up to you." Paige looked at Liam, who was drawing with his finger on the wooden bench, already distracted by his own world. She looked at the sky, which was starting to turn shades of pink and orange. She looked at her hands, calloused from carrying the bag and the boy. "Pride doesn't pay the bills," Ryan's voice echoed in her memory. "Pride doesn't put food on the table." She took a deep breath. "Just until I find something better," she said, looking at Ethan. "It's not permanent. I'm going to look for another job. Something real." "This is something real," he corrected. "But I understand. Temporary. And I will pay for the daycare. When I get paid, I'll pay." Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but something in her eyes made him stop. "Fine, you pay." They stood there, two strangers making a strange agreement in the middle of a park. As the sun set and the world continued to spin, indifferent. "Tomorrow?" Ethan asked. 8 in the morning. Paige thought of the night ahead. At the bus stop. The cold. The constant fear. "Can I?" She swallowed her pride hard. "Can I start today? Spend the night in the office organizing?" That way, I'll get a head start. She wasn't fooling anyone. Ethan knew exactly why she was asking. But to his credit, he didn't show it. You can, he said simply. I'll take you. There's a couch in the office. Liam can sleep there. I'll work all night to make up for it. You work until you get tired, Ethan corrected. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. The office was in a glass commercial building downtown. Nothing ostentatious, but solid. The kind of place that exuded confidence. Ethan parked in the garage and took them up to the 10th floor. The automatic lights came on as they entered, revealing a large space with organized desks, turned-off computers, and walls covered with blueprints. Bathroom there, Ethan pointed. Kitchen on the other side. There's coffee. Some things in the fridge. You can take whatever you want. He opened a side door. Conference room. It has a sofa bed. I can set it up for you. Paige followed him into the room, watching as he pulled out the sofa and turned it into a surprisingly comfortable bed. There were even clean sheets in the cabinet. Do you let people sleep here often? She asked, trying to sound casual. Ethan smiled crookedly. Sometimes we have projects with tight deadlines. It's easier than going home. Liam was already exploring the room, fascinated by the large TV on the wall. Can I watch cartoons? He asked, with those hopeful eyes that melted all resistance. Sure, Ethan replied before Paige could say no. He grabbed the remote, turned on the TV, and found a kids' channel. But only until you get sleepy, okay? Okay. When Liam was distracted by the cartoons, Ethan led Paige to the main office area. The files that need organizing are here, he said, opening a cabinet full of disorganized folders. You need to catalog them by date, separate them by project, and digitize the important ones. Nothing too complex, but it's a lot of work. Paige looked at the absurd amount of paper. This is a lot. That's why it's a few weeks of work, Ethan said. You don't have to do it all tonight. In fact, you shouldn't do it all tonight. Rest. Tomorrow we'll talk about salary, hours, everything more formal. He took a key from a drawer and placed it in her hand. Spare key, so you can come and go when you need to. The alarm code is 1707. There are cameras, so everything is recorded. But I trust you. He paused. This is not charity, Paige. I really need this done. You're doing me a favor, just as much as I'm giving you an opportunity. Paige closed her fingers around the key. It was small, common, but it weighed like responsibility and hope at the same time. Thank you, she said. And this time the word was full of meaning. Ethan nodded, already heading toward the elevator. See you tomorrow. He looked back. Oh, Paige. Eat something before you work. Promise. She nodded, a half smile appearing without permission. When he left, Paige stood in the middle of the silent office, the key in her hand. Liam was humming in the conference room. And for the first time in 8 months, something that wasn't despair blossomed in her chest. It was small, fragile, almost imperceptible. But it was hope. And for now, it was enough. The sunlight streaming through the office's glass windows woke Paige before her cell phone alarm. She blinked, disoriented for a second. Her body protested the uncomfortable position. She had worked until almost midnight, organizing files. Then, she had slept on the sofa bed next to Liam. But it was a different kind of waking. There was no immediate fear. No panic about not knowing where to spend the day. There was only the normal tiredness of someone who had worked and was going to work again. Normal. When was the last time she felt something normal? Liam was still sleeping soundly, wrapped in the clean sheet, his hair sticking up in all directions. Paige kissed his forehead before silently getting up. In the office bathroom, she looked at herself in the mirror. She looked awful. Deep circles under her eyes, messy hair. The same clothes as yesterday. She needed to shower, change her clothes, look minimally presentable. But how? The memory of the backpack she had left stored at Mrs. Elena's house came to mind. It had some clothes there, hygiene products, but it was far, and she needed to be here at 8. One problem at a time, she thought, washing her face with cold water. First day. Just need to survive the first day. She was trying to do something with her hair when she heard the office door open. Her heart raced. It was 6:30 in the morning. Who could it be? But then a feminine voice echoed. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Paige came out of the bathroom slowly. A woman in her mid-40s was at the reception desk, carrying a huge bag and a bakery sack. She had short, graying hair, red-framed glasses, and an expression of surprise at seeing Paige. "Hi," the woman said, blinking. "You must be Paige. Ethan called me last night." "I am," Paige replied automatically, smoothing her wrinkled clothes. "Sorry, I didn't know anyone else would be here so early." The woman gave a warm smile that lit up her entire face. "Relax, honey. I'm Rachel, Ethan's secretary for, 15 years now." She placed the bag on the reception desk. "Brought bagels, coffee, some things. Ethan said you'd need a decent breakfast." Ethan had called his secretary because of her. Paige didn't know whether to be grateful or embarrassed. Rachel must have read her expression because she waved her hand, dismissing any discomfort. "Don't worry. Ethan he's good at that. Taking care of others in a clumsy but sincere way." She started taking things out of the bag. "Besides, I'm curious. It's been a while since he brought anyone new to the office." "I'm not," Paige began, but didn't know how to finish. "I'm just going to organize some files." "That's what they all say," Rachel replied with a conspiratorial smile. "But trust me, if Ethan brought you here, it's because he saw something. He has a radar for good people." A soft cry came from the conference room. Liam was waking up. "Is that your son?" Rachel asked, already heading toward the sound, before Paige could answer. "How old?" 2, Paige said, following her. Liam was sitting on the sofa bed, rubbing his eyes, his mouth pouting the way he always did when he woke up in a strange place. "Mommy's here, sweetie." Paige picked him up, feeling the familiar weight, the smell of sleep. "Did you sleep well?" Rachel was melting. "What a cutie. Hi, handsome. Do you like bagels?" Liam looked at his mother, silently asking for permission. When Paige nodded, the boy immediately smiled at Rachel as if they were best friends. "I do." "Then let's go breakfast," Rachel announced, taking Liam from his mother as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And you, young lady, are going to take a shower? There's a shower in the back bathroom. Clean towels in the cabinet. You can take as long as you want." "But I don't have clean clothes," Paige admitted, the shame burning. "What I have is at a friend's house and—" "What size do you wear?" "Medium, but perfect. I have some clothes in my car. I always keep a change here, because you never know, right?" Rachel was already leaving with Liam in her arms. "I'll go get them. You get in the shower. Don't argue." Manager's orders. Before Paige could protest, Rachel had disappeared, leaving her alone in the room with her mouth open. What kind of place is this? 20 minutes later, Paige was unrecognizable. The hot shower had been almost therapeutic, washing away days of dirt and tiredness. The clothes Rachel had lent her, simple jeans and a light blue shirt, were comfortable and clean. She had even managed to do something decent with her hair. When she returned to the common area, Liam was sitting at Rachel's desk, eating a bagel and watching a cartoon on her tablet, completely at ease. "Look at her," Rachel exclaimed. "You look beautiful, see? Sometimes all you need is a break." Paige sat down, accepting the coffee Rachel offered. It was strong and sweet, exactly what she needed. "Thank you," she said, and there was so much weight in that word. For the clothes, the coffee, everything. "No need to thank me. We're a team here." Rachel bit into her own bagel. "So, Ethan says you're going to organize that disaster of an archive?" "I'll try," Paige admitted. "It's a lot. It's a nightmare." "It is," Rachel agreed cheerfully. I've been asking him to hire someone for this for months, but you know how bosses are, always putting it off. The office door opened again, and Ethan entered. He paused when he saw the scene. Rachel, Paige drinking coffee, Liam covered in crumbs. A small smile appeared. "Good morning," he said, and he seemed genuinely relieved to see everyone there. "Good morning, boss," Rachel replied. "I've already integrated the newbie. She's great." Ethan looked at Paige, and there was a silent question there. "Are you okay?" She nodded. Small but real. "Good," he said. "Then let's talk details." They sat in the conference room. Ethan, Paige, and Rachel, who insisted on staying to keep everything official and professional. Liam continued on the tablet, oblivious. Ethan pulled out a paper. Temporary 3-month contract. Renewable if both parties agree. Salary of $2,500 per month. Paid on the 5th business day. Flexible hours, as long as the work gets done. The daycare covers 6 hours a day. 8 to 12 and 1 to 3. You choose the hours. He paused. The company pays for the daycare. It's not negotiable. It's part of the benefits package. Paige opened her mouth to protest, but Rachel nudged her. Accept it. All employees get it. It's not a favor. 20 source. It was more than she earned before. It was enough to rent a small place, buy food, start over. "I accept," she said, her voice faltering slightly. Ethan pushed the paper for her to sign. When the pen touched the paper, Paige felt something change. It wasn't just a job. It was a door opening. It was the universe saying that maybe, just maybe, she could get out of this hole. "Welcome to Apex Holdings," Ethan said, extending his hand. Paige shook it. The grip was firm, professional. But there was something more there, a mutual understanding. A silent, "I see you." "Now," Rachel said, clapping her hands. "Let's show you where everything is, introduce you to the rest of the team when they arrive, and start this journey." Liam looked up from the tablet. "Mommy is going to stay here?" "I'm going to work here." "Cool." He went back to the cartoon, completely satisfied. And Paige, for the first time in 8 months, felt that maybe things could be okay. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. And for now, eventually was enough. 3 weeks. Paige woke up, took Liam to daycare, organized files, picked up her son, returned to the rented room. Routine. The word she had so desperately wanted now scared her, because it meant getting used to it. And getting used to it meant that when everything fell apart, because it always did, it would hurt more. But there was something worse than the routine. Ethan. He maintained a professional distance, conversations only about work, and Liam. Never asking too much. Never getting too close. And perhaps that was exactly why Paige couldn't stop noticing him. The crooked smile when Rachel made a joke. The tense shoulders during calls with Mark. The distant gaze out the window, lost somewhere she couldn't reach. "Stop," she scolded herself. "You can't. Ryan is still here, in your chest, in every breath." But Ryan wasn't here, and Ethan was as It was Thursday, almost 6 in the evening, when the woman entered as if she owned the place. Paige looked up from the documents. The visitor was beautiful in an intimidating way. Perfectly brushed blonde hair, expensive clothes, heels that made an authoritative sound on the floor. When she looked at Paige, there was calculated disdain in those blue eyes. "Is Ethan here?" She didn't introduce herself. "In a meeting. Can I take a message?" The woman let out a short, humorless laugh. "No need. I'll wait." She sat on the sofa as if she had every right. Paige returned to work, but she felt the gaze weighing on her, evaluating, judging. When Ethan came out of the meeting with 2 men in suits and saw who was there, his face completely shut down. "Brooke, what are you doing here?" Brooke. The name landed like a stone. "I need to talk about the Midtown development. You haven't answered my emails. Because I have nothing to say. It won't take 5 minutes. Please. Ethan hesitated. He glanced quickly at Paige. A silent apology before motioning for Brooke to enter the room. When the door closed, Paige stared at the computer screen, pretending not to have noticed. Pretending that the tightness in her chest meant nothing. It's none of your business. But jealousy doesn't listen to logic. 20 minutes later, Ethan emerged, visibly irritated. Brooke walked past Paige without looking, her heels hammering a sentence on the floor. Ethan stopped in front of her desk. Sorry about that. She shouldn't have come here. You don't need to explain. Too fast. She's not my concern. Something changed in his expression, as if he caught the defensive tone. She's my ex-fiancée. We broke up 3 years ago, but she insists on showing up with business excuses. Ex-fiancée. The information settled heavily. She's beautiful, Paige said, wanting to take the words back. Why did you say that? Ethan gave a tired half smile. She's a lot of things. Beautiful is just one of them. A pause. Paige, His phone rang, the screen showing Mark. Ethan closed his eyes in pure frustration. I need to take this, but we'll talk later. She nodded, not trusting her voice. It was early Saturday morning when everything came crashing down. Liam woke up coughing, his forehead burning with fever. Paige placed her hand on him, and the panic came like a tsunami. Not again. Please, not again. The last time she had seen someone with a fever had been Ryan, the day before the accident. He had complained of a headache, taken medicine, left for work. Never came back. Her hands trembled on the phone. Mrs. Elena didn't answer. Jenna was on a night shift. She had no one. Ethan. 3 a.m. Absurd to call. Invasive. Liam whimpered, trembling. She dialed. He answered on the second ring. His voice was too alert. Paige, what happened? Liam has a high fever, burning up. I gave him medicine, but it hasn't gone down and I'm coming. Send me your address. You don't need to. Now. 15 minutes later. Impossible to have arrived so fast while obeying speed limits. Ethan was knocking on the door. Sweatshirt, sneakers, messy hair, focused eyes. I have to be composed, but I can't. Where is he? Paige pointed to the sofa bed. Liam was wrapped in blankets, groaning softly. Ethan knelt, placed a hand on his forehead, checked his breathing. How much medicine did you give him? The correct dose, I swear. You did the right thing. He looked at her, saw the panic. Breathe. He's going to be fine. You don't know that. Tears came without permission. You can't know. Ethan stood up, his hands firm on her shoulders. Look at me. He waited. I know you're scared. I know this brings back bad memories. But Liam needs you to breathe and trust. It's a strong virus, that's all. How do you know? Because I've seen it. Something dark crossed his face. And we're going to the hospital now to confirm it. Come. He picked up Liam. The boy just nestled his head on Ethan's shoulder and motioned for Paige to grab her bag. At the hospital, Ethan didn't ask questions. He took them to the emergency room, filled out papers, paid. And he stayed. He stayed during the consultation, holding Paige's hand when the doctor examined Liam. He stayed when they put in the IV. He stayed when the fever came down and Liam fell asleep, exhausted. And when Paige finally broke down, crying, all the accumulated fear, it was Ethan who held her. I lost him, she sobbed against his chest. I lost Ryan, and I can't lose anyone else. Ethan squeezed her tighter, his chin resting on the top of her head. You won't lose him. Liam is going to be fine, I promise. You can't promise, but I am promising anyway. Paige, for the first time since Ryan died, let someone share the burden. She let Ethan hold her while she fell apart. Someone who stayed. When she pulled away, wiping her tears, she sensed something vulnerable on his face. Ethan, why do you do this? Because I lost a child. The confession was ripped from him. 3 years ago, Brooke was 6 months pregnant, It didn't work out. He looked at Liam sleeping. Afterward, I couldn't be near any child. It only reminded me of what I lost. He took a deep breath. Until I met you. You guys. The world stopped. Everything made sense. The park. The help. The way he looked at Liam. I didn't know. No one knows. We don't talk about it. Brooke can't handle talking. I can't either. Until now. Paige took his hand. She laced their fingers together. No right words. Just being there. Sharing silence and pain. When Ethan squeezed back, they both understood. They weren't just helping each other. They were healing each other. Together. Paige started arriving earlier and leaving later. Not because the work demanded it, but because this way she could avoid the moments when the office emptied out. And it was just her and Ethan. Those dangerous silences, where the unspoken words weighed more than any conversation. After that night at the hospital, something had changed. Or perhaps it had been revealed. The way he had held her. The confession about his lost child. Her hand intertwined with his while Liam slept. It had been too intimate. Too real. And Paige didn't know how to handle what was real. Ethan noticed, of course. She saw it in his eyes when they crossed paths in the hallway. In the hesitation before he asked a simple question about work. In the way he would stop at the door of the room where she organized files. As if he wanted to enter. But decided against it at the last second. Rachel noticed too. But being Rachel, she got straight to the point one Tuesday while drinking coffee. "You're running away from him," Paige nearly choked. "I'm not running away from anyone, just focused on work." Rachel stirred the sugar in her coffee with that expression of someone who wasn't buying anything. "You know what I think? I think you're scared." "Scared of what?" "Of feeling something. Of letting him in. Of betraying a memory that you think you need to keep forever." Her voice softened. "But honey, your husband wouldn't want you to be stuck in time. No one who truly loves you wants that." The words echoed long after Rachel had returned to her desk. Ryan wouldn't want that. Paige knew it. But knowing and accepting were different things. It was on a Thursday that everything exploded. Paige was finishing cataloging the last box of documents when she heard raised voices coming from Ethan's office. One of them she recognized. Ethan trying to keep a professional tone, but failing. The other was male, louder, filled with disdain. "You're throwing everything away because of what? Some employee you found crying on the street? Mark." Finally, the phantom partner had materialized. Paige should leave, close the door, pretend she hadn't heard. But her feet were glued to the floor. "Don't talk about her like that." Ethan's voice was dangerously low. "Why not? It's the truth. You brought her here out of pity, invented a non-existent job, and now you're so distracted by your charity that you've lost focus on what matters. The Midtown development didn't happen because it was unethical. You know that. Unethical is leaving millions on the table because you're being the knight in shining armor for a desperate widow." The silence that followed was so dense Paige could feel it through the wall. "Get out of my office," Ethan said, every word a sentence. "Or what? You'll fire me? I'm a partner, Ethan. Half this company is mine, and I won't stand by while you sink everything because you can't get over what happened with Brooke. Leave Brooke out of this. She's already in it." Mark's voice had calculated venom. "She called me last week, worried about you. Said you're different. Thinks you're, as she put it, yes, clinging to substitutes for what you lost." Paige felt the floor disappear. Substitutes. The door opened violently. Mark walked out. A man in an expensive suit, slicked back hair, the expression of someone who had just won a battle. He saw Paige standing there and smiled. It wasn't pretty. "The beneficiary of charity is here," he said. He approached, invading her personal space. "Let me give you some free advice, since you love free things so much. Ethan does this. Always has. finds broken projects and tries to fix them. You're not special. You're just the project of the moment. Mark! Ethan appeared in the doorway, his face pale. Get out of here, now. Mark shrugged, still smiling. I'll go. But think about what I said. About everything. He looked at Paige one last time. Goodbye, Charity Case. Good luck being fixed. When he left, the silence that remained was a disaster waiting to explode. Ethan approached, his hands outstretched. Paige, listen. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's furious because... Am I a charity project? Her voice came out too firm, too cold. Is that what I am to you? Something broken you found in the park and decided to fix to make yourself feel better? No, it's not any of that. Then what is it? She took a step forward, all the fear and confusion of the last few days exploding. Why did you help me? Why didn't you leave me alone? Why you? Because I couldn't... Ethan exploded, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Because I saw you in that park, and I saw someone who was exactly where I've been. And I couldn't just walk past. I couldn't pretend I didn't see you. So it was pity. It wasn't pity. It was... He paused, searching for the right words. It was recognition. It was seeing someone drowning, and remembering what it's like not to be able to breathe. And I didn't do it to make myself feel better. I did it because you deserved it. Because Liam deserved it. Because if no one did it for me when I needed it, at least I could do it for someone else. Tears burned in Paige's eyes, but she forced them back. And the kiss? Was that charity too? A way to make me feel better? Ethan turned pale. You know it wasn't. I don't know anything. She was screaming now, months of pain leaking out. I don't know what's real, and what's you trying to fill the hole your son left. I don't know if you see me, or if you only see a substitute. The word dropped between them like a bomb. Never, Ethan said, his voice raw. Don't ever think that. Liam is no one's substitute. And you? He took a step closer, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. You are not a project. You are not charity. You are the first person in 3 years who made me want to feel again, who made me want to risk again. And I know it's too soon. I know you're still processing everything. I know I don't have the right to. Stop! Paige cut him off, the tears finally falling. Just stop! She picked up her bag, her hands shaking. Paige, don't go, please. I need to think. I can't do this now. Do what? She looked at him, and there was so much fear in those eyes. Feel. I can't feel this for you and still be myself. I can't betray him like this. You're not betraying anyone, Ethan said softly. You're living. You're letting your heart keep beating even after it was shattered. That's not betrayal. It's survival. But Paige was already leaving. Her vision blurred with tears, her chest tight with guilt and desire and fear, so mixed she couldn't separate one from the other. In the hallway, she bumped into someone. Brooke. Of course it was her. The ex-fiancé looked at Paige, saw the tears, and smiled. There was no victory there. There was something worse. Pity. He does this, Brooke said softly, almost gently. He finds broken people, tries to save them, thinks if he saves others, he'll manage to save himself too. She tilted her head. But when you no longer need saving, when you're well again, what do you think will happen? That he'll still be interested? Paige pushed her aside and ran. She ran for the stairs because the elevator would take too long. She ran until she reached the street, until she could breathe, until the world stopped spinning. And when she finally stopped, breathless, in the same park where everything had begun, she saw Mr. Denton with his popcorn cart, watching her as if he had been waiting. You came back, the old man said without surprise. Paige sank onto the bench, sobbing. I can't do this. I can't like him. I can't forget Ryan like this. Mr. Anton sat beside her, patient. Who says it's about forgetting? He looked up at the cloudy sky. Loving again doesn't erase who you loved before. It just proves that your heart still works, that even after breaking, it still has the capacity to feel. But what if I'm not the same person anymore? What if I really let Ryan go? Then he will continue to exist in your memory, in your son, in the good things he gave you. The old man looked at her. But you, young lady, you need to keep living. And living means feeling, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Paige wiped her face, her breathing still erratic. Across the park, Ethan appeared. He stopped when he saw her, keeping his distance, just waiting. And Paige realized she had a choice. She could run again, go back to the empty room, to the safe life of not feeling anything, of merely surviving. Or she could stay and feel. 7 days. Paige had spent 7 days on autopilot, waking up, taking care of Liam, looking for a job. Because she wasn't going back, she couldn't go back. Sleep. Repeating. The rented room had never felt so small, so suffocating, as if the walls closed in a centimeter every day. Jenna had visited twice with food, and questions Paige couldn't answer. Mrs. Elena called every day, worried about the silence. Rachel had sent 15 messages, each one more direct than the last. You're being an idiot. He's a mess. At least let me get your things. But Paige didn't answer. She didn't know how. It was Saturday afternoon when Liam pulled on her shirt sleeve, his eyes large and confused. The eyes of someone who didn't understand why things had changed again. "Mommy, where's Uncle Ethan?" The simple question cut deeper than anything Mark or Brooke could have said. "The uncle is working, honey." "Doesn't he like us anymore?" Paige knelt down, taking her son's face in her hands. "Of course he likes us. He likes us very much." "Then why aren't we going there anymore?" "Because Mommy is afraid. Because Mommy doesn't know how to stop running." "We are going," she heard her own voice say. "Tomorrow. We're going tomorrow." But Sunday came, and her feet didn't move. Monday came and went. Tuesday was almost over when she finally took Liam's hand and left. She wasn't going to the office. That was his territory, full of stinging memories. She was going to the only neutral place, to the place where everything began. The park was empty when they arrived, the late afternoon shadows stretching long on the ground. Mr. Anton was there, as always, pushing his cart for the last sales of the day. He saw her and just nodded, a small, knowing smile. "Popcorn!" Liam shouted, running toward the cart. Paige followed, reaching for her wallet. But Mr. Anton waved his hand. "This one's on the house." He handed the bag to the boy. Then he looked at Paige with those eyes that saw too much. "He comes here every day, since you disappeared. Sits there on that bench, looking into nothing. Waiting." Paige's heart stumbled. "Every day?" "Every day. Same time. As if you were going to show up." The old man tilted his head. "He's late today, but he'll come. Always does." She didn't know what to do with that information. So she stood there, Liam eating popcorn at her feet, the sun setting slowly, painting the sky pink and orange. And then she saw him. Ethan crossing the park, his hands in his pockets, his head down. His shoulders slumped in a way she had never seen. He looked smaller, lost, as if he too was carrying the weight of 7 days of silence. When he lifted his eyes and saw her there, stopped in the middle of the path, the expression that crossed his face was so raw that Paige felt her own defenses crack. Relief, fear, hope. All at once. He didn't approach. He just stood there, waiting, giving her the power to decide. Liam saw him and shouted, "Uncle Ethan!" He dropped the popcorn and ran, tripping over his own feet in his haste. Ethan knelt down, catching the boy who threw himself at him, with the absolute confidence of someone who knows they will be held. "Hi, champ," Ethan said, his voice husky. "I missed you." "Me too. Mommy said you were working hard." "I was." He looked over Liam's head straight at Paige. "But some things are more important than work." Paige took a step, then another, until she was in front of him. Their worlds separated only by a 2-year-old boy who was holding them both. She started, but the words died. Ethan gently placed Liam on the ground. "Go with Mr. Anton, champ. Ask for more popcorn. I need to talk to Mommy." Liam ran off, and they were left alone in the middle of the park that had witnessed the beginning of everything. "I was a coward," Paige said, because she needed to get the words out before they choked her. "I ran because it was easier than staying and feeling, because if I let it happen for real, it meant that I was letting him go." "Ryan," Ethan said softly. "Yes." The tears came without warning. "And I thought if I let him go, there would be nothing left of who I was. But these 7 days," she let out a wet laugh. "These 7 days, I realized that I've already changed. I'm not the same person he knew. And it's not because I met you. It's because he died, and I kept living. And living changes us whether we want it to or not." Ethan stood still, just listening, his eyes fixed on her. "But the worst part," Paige continued, her voice breaking, "was realizing that I wasn't betraying him by liking you. I was betraying myself by not letting my heart keep beating." The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Then Ethan took a step forward. He took her face in his hands with a gentleness that seemed to say, "You are precious," without needing words. "You are not a project," he said, every word firm. "You are not charity. You are not a substitute for anything I lost. You, complicated and scared and strong and wounded. And I don't want to save you. I want to walk beside you while we save each other. Because I'm broken too, Paige. I'm scared too. But when I'm near you, these broken pieces seem to make sense again." "Ethan, don't answer me now. Just stay. Please, just stay. And let's see where this goes. No rush, no pressure. Just together." Paige looked at him. She saw the man who had shown up in a park when she had nothing left, who had offered help without asking for anything in return, who had held her at the hospital, who had shared his deepest pain as if it were a gift, not a burden. And for the first time in 8 months, she let the past be the past, and the present be real. "Together," she repeated, and it sounded like a promise. When he kissed her, it tasted of beginning again, of second chances, of 2 broken hearts finding an imperfect but true fit. And at the popcorn cart, Mr. Anton smiled, pushing his cart away. His work there was done. 6 months later, life had found its own rhythm. It wasn't perfect. Nothing involving 2 mended hearts could be. But it was real. Paige had accepted the full-time position at Apex Holdings, now as administrative coordinator. Liam called Ethan Uncle Ethan with absolute naturalness, and sometimes, in the unguarded moments of sleep, he would whisper, "Daddy," without realizing it. Ethan never corrected him. He just held the boy tighter. They didn't live together. Paige had rented a small but cozy apartment, refusing his offer for something bigger. "I need to do this on my own first," she had explained, and Ethan understood. He always understood. But he slept there 3 nights a week, and she slept at his apartment too. And on weekends, they were an improvised but true family. Brooke had disappeared after one last failed attempt. Mark had left the partnership in a tense but necessary agreement. Rachel had cried tears of joy when they finally made their relationship official. Mrs. Elena had given her blessing with tears in her eyes. Jenna had given Ethan the "if you hurt my friend, I'll kill you" lecture, which he accepted with seriousness. Chloe visited every month, and had already declared that she would be the maid of honor at the wedding, even though no one had mentioned a wedding yet. It was Sunday morning, and they were in the park. The same park. The same bench. But this time, there were no tears. There was Liam running after pigeons. There was Ethan's arm around Paige's shoulders. There was sun and popcorn. And the strange feeling that maybe, finally, things could be okay. Mr. Anton approached with the cart, slower than before, but his smile was equally wise. "You came back," he said, as if he had known all along. "We always come back here," Paige replied. "It's our spot." The old man nodded, handing popcorn to Liam, who had run over. "You know what I always say?" He looked between the two of them. "Life has a strange way of putting the right people in the right places, even when we think all is lost." He winked. "You two are living proof of that." Ethan squeezed Paige's hand. "We know. Every day we know." When Mr. Anton walked away, Ethan turned to her, something different in his gaze. "There's one thing I want to show you." He pulled a key from his pocket. It wasn't the car key. It was small, with a wooden tag attached. "What is this?" "The house I was building. The one that stopped when everything happened." He looked at the key, then at her. "I finished it. Finally. I wanted you to see it. For both of you to see it." Paige's heart raced. "Ethan!" "It's not a proposal," he quickly said, but smiled. "Not yet. It's an invitation. For you to see where I imagine us. If you want to. No pressure, just possibility." Paige looked at Liam running in circles with his arms open, pretending to be an airplane. She looked at Ethan. This man who had appeared when she had nothing, and had offered everything without asking for anything in return. She looked at her own heart, mended, but beating strongly. "Show me," she said. And it sounded like a yes to all the unasked questions. The house was in a quiet suburban neighborhood, with old trees and children playing in the street. It was 2 stories, with a porch and a small but possibility-filled garden. Ethan opened the door, and Paige stepped into a space that smelled of fresh paint and future. He had deliberately left almost everything empty. "I wanted you to choose," he explained, as Liam explored the empty rooms, his little footsteps echoing. "The colors, the furniture, everything. If we're going to live here, it has to be yours too." "Ours." Paige went upstairs. Ethan followed. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms. She walked into the largest one and saw the park through the window, small from afar, but visible. "You bought a house with a view of the park where we met," she said, her voice choked. "So I couldn't forget where everything began." She turned around, tears in her eyes, but this time they were different. They were tears of hope, of gratitude, of love that had grown slowly but deeply. "Ryan would have liked you," she said. And it was true. He would have liked knowing that someone is taking care of us. Ethan pulled her close. He kissed her forehead. "I will spend the rest of my life honoring that. Honoring him, honoring you, honoring us." Liam ran in, jumping between the two. "Mommy, Uncle! There's a room with stars on the ceiling!" They laughed. And in that laugh was everything they had been through. Pain, loss, fear, healing. And finally, beginning again. 3 months later, they got married in a small ceremony in the park, with Mr. Anton as a silent witness and Chloe throwing petals. Liam carried the rings on a small cushion that Mrs. Elena had embroidered, and when they said yes, it wasn't erasing the past. It was honoring what they had lived and choosing to continue living together. Your interactions are very important to us. Leave your name in the comments, and we can include it in one of our stories with a personalized greeting just for you.